over the weekend, I watched the first 2 episodes of the newest MCU Disney Plus TV show, Daredevil Born Again. And while I was really nowhere close to actually loving it, I didn't particularly hate it either. Or at least I should say, I didn't see anything that made me go, okay, I'm done with this show. So it has potential. It also does some really stupid stuff, but let's get into it. Welcome to the newest episode of SDW.
Super Dario World!
Dario again, dun, dun. I just wanna be Dario again, dun, dun. Life I love is making podcasts with my friends. Oh, I can't wait to get Dario again. Honestly, I miss singing that. It's such a stupid song, but I enjoyed. But anyway, Daredevil Born Again. I will go into some spoilers for the show. I'll let you know once I start getting into that area. And it does help if you've seen the Daredevil Netflix TV shows. So I will probably do spoilers for that one as well. But before we get into it, let me just give you a quick reminder that any comments, questions, or suggestions, you can find me at Dario SDW and at Super Dario World. Like this video, share this video, comment, all that good stuff. It really helps me out. I appreciate it. It's been my first episode in a while. I've been a little busy, but I'm going to try to make time for this one, following every episode of the show, unless something happens where I'm like, okay, I'm done. Nah, that was too dumb. I throw the towel on this one because I'm concerned. Listen, I'm a Daredevil fan, okay? And I've always said that the Daredevil TV show is, on the Netflix one, was probably the best thing on Netflix for a very long time. I mean, I wear a Daredevil hat. It's probably the hat that I've worn most on most of my podcast. I am a fan. I want that to be clear. And not just fan of Daredevil, I mean, of Netflix's version of Daredevil. I thought it was phenomenal. But, so things that you probably need to know before you get into the show is, you really need to watch the Daredevil Netflix show, not just because it'll help you understand, but because it's a great show. So watch it. It's 3 seasons. There's other stuff that also really helps out, particularly between season 2 and season 3. Like, I guess you need to watch The Defenders, you need to watch Jessica Jones and Luke Cage and all that stuff, but really you can get away with it, I guess. Kind of. It'll be a little confusing at one point, but you can probably get away with it just by watching Daredevil. As far as all the Disney stuff, honestly, I have no idea. I'm sure there's stuff that I missed, but they try to make it accessible. Like, I didn't watch She-Hulk, and I'm sure they're going to mention stuff that has to do with She-Hulk. I don't care, because Daredevil does appear in She-Hulk, and I hated the way he looked, by the way. The costume looked stupid. The Iron Man color pairing, it was just dumb. So She-Hulk I didn't watch. I watched Hawkeye, and the Kingpin does appear there, Wilson Fisk does appear there, and I hated the way they portrayed him. I thought it was disgustingly bad. They made him a cartoon villain. So it was basically a little kids show. So and that was my biggest concern. Going into Daredevil Born Again, it's like, okay, are they going to do that to the Kingpin and the Daredevil again, or are they going to go with the actual aesthetic of the Netflix show? Or is it going to be a gritty, dark crime drama show, not just a little kids superhero-y show? And the answer is it's the former. So they did go with the Netflix aesthetic. It does feel dark. It does feel very broody, and it's adult. So it's violent. It does have a lot of violence in it, and so I was happy about that. Again, I was very concerned. The way that they portrayed Wilson Fisk in Hawkeye is one of the most disgusting things I've ever seen. But anyway, doesn't really matter. So I only watched Hawkeye, I didn't watch Echo, I didn't watch She-Hulk. So if I missed something, I missed something. And honestly, I don't care, because I didn't care about either of those shows. Sticking specifically to Daredevil, the show, and here I might get into a few spoilers, episode 1, episode 2, and I'll probably get into Netflix spoilers, so spoiler alert, spoiler alert, spoiler alert. I mean, it's the first 2 episodes. How much can I really spoil? But whatever. So, one of my favorite things about the Daredevil show is that every season, well, season 1, they had one of my favorite fighting scenes of all time, and it's a one-shot. And for those of you, a one-shot basically means that there's no cuts in between takes, so it's all the cameras. You just follow the movement of the camera. You've probably seen it a ton of times. If you saw the movie 1917, the movie is designed to make it feel like it's all one long shot. I love those. And they had a fight scene in a corridor where he's going and fighting dudes in between 3 separate doors. It's a great fight scene. Obviously, there's cuts in between, or there probably are, but they make it look like so there's not any cuts, and it makes it tense. I like fight scenes that don't have any cuts in them because it usually means that the people doing the fighting have to know how to fight. It's really good choreography. It's smart. It's clever. And so season 1 had that, and I was like, this is phenomenal. They can't top that. Season 2, they managed to up the stakes and up the ante with the one-shot fight. It was phenomenal. I believe it was in a building going down against some gangbangers or something. And then season 3, they just blew the roof off the whole thing. It was the prison fight scene. It was insane from beginning to end. It was wild. And so it's now become a thing in the Daredevil TV universe, or at least for that show, that there is one big one-shot fight scene. And Daredevil Born Again begins with that. And if I'm being honest, if this was the Disney version of the one-shot fight, of the long-shot fight for this season, I am massively disappointed. The fight was okay. The choreography was awkward. There's a lot of things that don't make sense. But overall, it's season 3 Daredevil. It was basically an escape from a prison, and it's a very, very long one-shot. Here, it was the consequences of what happened were big, but it was awkward. It seemed kind of silly. Now, it could be that it was the director, the creator. By the way, the creator is the same guy who did the Punisher Netflix TV show, so that gave me a little bit of hope. But it could be the creators being like, don't worry, dudes, we got you. We know what you want. We got you. This is just a little taste. You think this is the big one? No, it's just a taste. So it could be that. And if it's that, cool. But again, if that ends up being the big fight scene, I am concerned, to say the least. But anyway, so fortunately, before I watched this TV show, I heard Charlie Cox, the guy who plays Matt Murdock, Daredevil, I heard him say, I think I read it. I might have read it. I read somewhere that he said, okay, this is not Daredevil Born Again. It is Daredevil Born Again. That's the name of the show. But they're not doing Daredevil Born Again, the comic. And the comic book is probably the greatest Daredevil comic book out there. And to me, that's cheap. That's like, man. They basically were like, okay, we got the rights to Daredevil. We want to make fans come in here. And so somebody Googled, what's the most popular Daredevil storyline? And it came out Born Again. They're like, all right, we're gonna do Born Again. But we're not really gonna follow the story. So they're not following the story at all. And I'll just read you the story really quickly, just so you kind of know. Because to be fair, it was impossible for them to actually do Born Again, and you'll understand why in a second. So this is the story for basically what's in the back part of the cover if you get the omnibus. But from the powerhouse pairing of Frank Miller and David Mazzucchelli. By the way, Frank Miller, The Dark Knight Returns. David Mazzucchelli, he wrote the Batman Year One comics, so you can kind of tell that they know how to handle superheroes who are very down to earth. Anyway, from the powerhouse pairing of those two dudes comes the definitive Daredevil tale. Karen Page, Matt Murdock's former lover, sets into motion a Machiavellian chain of events by trading away his secret identity for a drug fix. Now, Daredevil must find all the strength he can muster as Wilson Fisk, the kingpin of crime, wastes no time taking him down as low as he can humanly get. As he's nursed back to health, a nun named blah blah. Okay, so that part really doesn't matter because that part they kind of already did. The nuns. I'll read it. As he's nursed back to health by a nun named Sister Maggie, Matt discovers a shocking secret that will change their relationship forever. But can he piece his life back together and survive a battle against the brutal super soldier named Nuke? Okay, so right off the bat, you can tell, if you remember Daredevil Season 3, they kind of did all the nun stuff there, if I'm recalling the right season. And one big issue why they could not really do Born Again is because in Season 3 of Daredevil, the Kingpin already figured out who Matt Murdock was, or who Daredevil was. So they couldn't do it that way, and by that way I mean Karen Page being a junkie and selling out Daredevil's identity to the Kingpin. They couldn't do that. Also, Karen Page is apparently a beloved character in the show. People like her. She kind of stresses me out, to be honest, but whatever. She's still a badass, and so they couldn't actually have her be the one who betrays Matt Murdock, and so I don't like I said, if you see the premise of the TV show, it's nothing alike. It doesn't start off at the same point, but maybe they could follow some of the same themes. And the themes are basically bringing Daredevil down low, like to the edges of his sanity, right? Okay, now let me just remind you where everything ends in Season 3, which is, if you haven't watched any of the Disney Plus stuff, that's where you left the show. So where you left the show basically is the Kingpin got arrested. Bullseye, or Dex as he's known in the show, Bullseye, I believe he was trying to kill the Kingpin, well, not the Kingpin, he was trying to kill the Kingpin's lover, Vanessa, or his wife. Well, they got married, so he's trying to kill his wife because the Kingpin killed the girl that he liked. I believe her name was Julie. Anyway, the point is, there was a big three-way fight. It was phenomenal between the Kingpin, Bullseye, and Daredevil, where Bullseye's trying to kill Vanessa, the Kingpin's trying to take down Bullseye, protect Vanessa, and take down Daredevil, and Daredevil's trying to stop Bullseye from killing Vanessa, from killing the Kingpin, but still take down Bullseye and take down the Kingpin. It was a great fight. Honestly, it's phenomenal. The stakes are really high. Whatever. The point is, Kingpin ends up basically breaking Bullseye's back. By the way, afterwards, it was revealed that he had surgery, an experimental surgery, where he wasn't paralyzed anymore. But that's at the end of the season. It doesn't really matter. And Daredevil gets Kingpin arrested, and the Kingpin basically says to Daredevil, hey, I will not reveal your secret if you don't reveal that Vanessa was involved with some of the criminal elements of his empire, right? She was involved with ordering the murder of somebody, and Daredevil, I guess, found the evidence. But so that's kind of where the season ended. Those two are at a stalemate. Daredevil doesn't go after Vanessa. The Kingpin hides Daredevil's secret. So there you go. So again, with that being the setting, it's beyond clear you cannot do Daredevil Born Again because, again, the cat's already out of the bag. Who Daredevil is already out of the bag. So, okay, I kind of knew that going in. I thought they were going to maybe be a bit more creative with it, but whatever. Doesn't matter. Now we get into episode 1. And like I said, the show starts off with a bang, right? It doesn't make a lot of sense, but it starts off with a bang. I'll say it again, spoiler alert, spoiler alert, spoiler alert. But again, it's the beginning of the first episode, so I don't see how big of a deal it is. So the show begins with Bullseye killing Foggy Nelson. For those of you who don't remember who Foggy Nelson is, that's Matt Murdock's best friend, business partner, lawyer. It's Nelson and Murdock's, it's their lawyering agency or whatever. What do you call it? It's their firm. So he's his best friend, right? And they were supposed to be working together again with Karen Page, and Bullseye kills Foggy. Now, why he kills Foggy is not exactly clear because he doesn't really say it. He doesn't say anything. He just basically tricks Daredevil into leaving the bar they were at, and Bullseye shows up and he shoots Foggy, and he shoots a couple of other dudes, but specifically does not target Karen Page. And Karen Page was basically a sitting duck out there. And for those of you who don't know, Bullseye does not miss. So he, on purpose, did not want to kill her. Why? I don't know. It doesn't really make sense. And again, it's not justified. It's never explained. Because if you just heard the story that I told you, the person who Bullseye should be upset with is the Kingpin, right? More than Daredevil. Daredevil did not kill his girl. Daredevil did not paralyze him. I mean, he was a factor. But why go after Foggy? And I don't really even remember if Bullseye even knew who Daredevil was. So going after Foggy was weird. But anyway, kills Foggy, and they have this big fight. Again, it's supposed to be the one shot. The fight's awkward. It happens in a bar where there's supposed to be cops, but nobody really does anything. It's a very awkwardly shot fight. But whatever. It was, let's say, intense. I'll give him that. Again, and the consequences of it were big. So I'll give him the benefit of the doubt, like I said. And so the fight ends basically with Daredevil beating Bullseye. He's exhausted. He's on the roof, and he hears Foggy. His heart stop, and so he asks him, like, why? Bullseye just laughs, and he throws him off the building, supposedly to his death. Now, it ends up happening that Bullseye actually survives, but it is understood that Daredevil actually wanted to kill him. Like, he actually tried killing him. And so the next thing you know, it's 1 year later. So from here, like I said, Bullseye didn't die, and they found out almost immediately. But what they're trying to do is, like, okay, so Daredevil, he crossed his line. He knew he crossed it, and so he kind of gives up being Daredevil because he knows he crossed the line. Now, he got lucky, but he knows he crossed it. Now, if it would have been me, I would have done one thing differently in this scene, and that's as Foggy's dying, he's like, I would have made it, because they're both outside. Foggy got shot outside, and they're on the roof, so Daredevil can hear him very clearly, and so he could have been in Foggy's line of sight. So Foggy actually saying no, or don't. So he knew that Matt would have heard. If they would have done that, and Matt, and then he dies, and then Matt throws Bullseye off the roof anyway, then I think it would have carried more weight. But, they did it this way for reasons, I guess. Anyway, then we move to a year later, and here's where the show gets really weird. So, Daredevil leaves Hell's Kitchen. Well, I'm sorry, Daredevil is at that point non-existent. Matt Murdock leaves Hell's Kitchen, and it turns out that Foggy Nelson dying was probably the best thing that could have happened for his career, professionally. Because dude looks like he's doing pretty well as a lawyer. So him focusing 100% on being a lawyer, it makes sense, but dude left Hell's Kitchen, so he stopped really helping people of Hell's Kitchen. Now he moved to Manhattan, and they have a pretty nice looking firm. Like, the building looks nice. He has a new partner. They actually introduced her in the beginning of the show, but sort of, I forget her name. It's a black girl, which, by the way, it's really funny that basically they replaced Foggy with the ginger dude with a black girl. Again, that was funny. It's not the same character though. It's different, so it's fair. But clearly she's more competent than Foggy because they're actually successful. The business looks like it's doing well. Again, now he's a New York lawyer. He's a Manhattan lawyer. So that was bizarre. Like, what they were saying there doesn't make much sense. And I mean, we know Daredevil. We know Matt Murdock. We know that he tends to self-punish him. And if we were doing Daredevil Born Again, we would have been seeing that year. The year of Daredevil actually reaching the brink of insanity. And a good starting off point is his best friend got murdered and he almost killed a guy. Or he wanted to kill somebody. He tried. Not wanted to. He tried killing somebody. So that would have been like a good starting off point for that. But instead of taking it, the Matt Murdock way, which is self-punishment and stuff like that we're used to, he apparently finds the healthiest way of doing it, and his life has become a massive success as a normal person. So that's weird. It's a weird thing for me to process as a fan, especially because Foggy was a badass. Like he's a fan favorite. It was annoying when he dealt with the Daredevil stuff because again he's a lawyer, but he was a very likable character. He was fun. He had a good moral compass and all that stuff. But okay, they got rid of a fan favorite character, and Karen leaves for San Francisco as well. So again, leaving your friends and your ideals and all that stuff behind leads to success, I guess. Okay, it's your story. We'll see what you do with it, but that's kind of how it starts. And so that's kind of the Daredevil side. He then gets roped up into defending a vigilante named White Tiger. I've never heard of him before, to be honest, or at least not off the top of my head. Maybe I have. I'm just confusing him with the White Tiger Guild of Solo Leveling, which I'm also watching, so I don't know. Anyway, point is he kind of accidentally falls into helping a vigilante. And now, the show is very small it feels very small because of major stupid coincidences. Like, what are the odds of Daredevil ended up being the guy who defends a vigilante when he didn't even know that he was a vigilante? It was just like he heard of cops roughing up a guy while he was in interrogation, and so he ends up going in there because that's who Matt Murdock is, and it ended up being a vigilante. So, like, it's very small, those things. And there's another even smaller one that I'll get into that it's just dumb, but whatever. Okay, so that's the Daredevil side. The Kingpin side is also equally wild. So the Kingpin is not in jail, which is weird, because we left him in Netflix season 3 getting arrested. And it's kind of a big deal of the Kingpin kind of finding ways to game the system, because it really infuriates you. You know, as a fan of the show, you're like, how could they let him get away? How's this so corrupt? And it feeds into Daredevil's own, I try to use the justice system, but the justice system doesn't work. It's exasperation, but whatever. So, the Kingpin's not in jail, and he's been missing for a while, which I guess it has to do with, at the end of Hawkeye, it's not exactly clear if he got shot or not by Echo. I don't know if anything happens in Echo, and I don't really care, but let's assume that he did get shot during Hawkeye, and they mentioned that he got shot in the face by his protege or whatever, and that he was in recovery. And so this kind of led to strain with his relationship with Vanessa, and Vanessa took over the criminal side of things. And again, turns out that she's 100% better at being a criminal than Wilson Fisk. It's very bizarre. It's like, okay, Wilson Fisk is out, Vanessa's in. We're assuming that they kept listening to Vanessa because of, you know, the power and respect that Wilson Fisk had. But it's now of a, oh yeah, I did your business and I did it better than you. It's perfect now. So I don't know, I guess it's really weird that they're starting off the show saying, hey, the Kingpin was actually kind of incompetent, and that Foggy Nelson was also kind of incompetent compared to the new female counterparts or whatever. Now, the case of Vanessa, they could have handled that better. Like the dynamic is weird because they're also kind of making, like, she's cheating on the Kingpin and he's tolerating it. It's really bizarre. Like, it's really awkward, and to me it's like, why would you do that with your villain? You're supposed to make him as big and as scary as possible, but to be fair, the Netflix version of the Kingpin, he's very human and he's kind of a big emotional baby sometimes, but again, he's as strong as a freaking bull and can destroy, and he's vicious and he's clever, so extremely clever. So again, we'll see where it goes. It feels odd. I know these people. The Kingpin beheaded a guy with a car door. Anyway. The point is, it feels odd. The relationship feels odd. Everything feels odd. And it's a bunch of stuff that happened behind the scenes that we didn't see. Like, the Netflix TV show, the last thing we saw is they got married, him and Vanessa. They were going to be like this criminal couple and all this stuff, and all of a sudden their relationship is in strains. Is very strained. I don't know. It's bizarre. Anyway, so the next thing that happens is also very fast, and that's basically that the Kingpin, or Wilson Fisk, not the Kingpin anymore, Wilson Fisk runs for mayor, and he wins this election. Now, how all that happens is super fast. There's a bunch of really interesting stuff that they left out. To me, it really doesn't make sense, because it could have been really interesting to see that entire election. Like, it would have been fun. I get it. It would have been too close to reality, to real world, and it would have made people feel like, oh my God, they're just trying to do the whole the election stuff. We just had the election 2024 in the U.S. It took over everything. We don't want to see that. Okay, I can understand it on that part or that side, but it was just really, really, really quick. It happened in the first episode, I think, and so Matt Murdock basically faces off against the Kingpin, but they have a conversation in which they basically, Matt Murdock's like, hey, I'm going to keep an eye on you, and the Kingpin's like, I'm going to keep an eye on you. If Daredevil doesn't come back, we don't have issues. And if the Kingpin doesn't come back, we don't have issues. So that's kind of how things went. It was weird. It was it's all very weird. But let's move on to kind of the small things that really bothered me. So as you heard, Kingpin's relationship with his wife is strained. And so what did they do? They go to therapy. Now, the therapist that they go to is the girl that Daredevil is currently dating. I forget her name. Doesn't really matter, but whatever. So, again, it's fucking Manhattan. You know how many shrinks exist in Manhattan? How many marriage counselors exist in Manhattan? Why, out of all the shrinks in Manhattan, did they have to select her specifically? Now, if it was on purpose, meaning the Kingpin has been keeping tabs on Matt Murdock, who he's dating, and he decides to do that just to kind of fuck with Matt Murdock, okay, that's funny. But again, it's that remains to be seen. I have not seen anything that leads me to it being anything other than a wild coincidence. And so it's stuff like that. You're like, dude, what? Why are you making this show feel so small? And also, you forgot about a lot of stuff, or you conveniently forgot. So, like the description, episode 2, the name is called Optics, and the description basically is Wilson Fisk learns about the importance of optics. It's like, dude, Wilson Fisk season 1 is the optics guy. Well, he didn't want to be seen, but until he introduced himself. But he was the guy who, when he went out on a date with Vanessa, had all of his guys fill out the restaurant, make it feel like they were also on dates, and when his date kind of got crashed by one of the Russian guys, everybody stood up, so it was clear that, okay, everything here is fake. Like, that's optics. That's optics 101. And so it's silly. He has also like a very young dude trying to teach him about optics. They introduced the niece, I think, or daughter, I don't know, of Ulrich, who's a reporter from season 1. So we'll see what they do with her. So it just, I don't know. They managed to keep enough stuff from the original Netflix show for me to be like, okay, I'm willing to give you a shot. It's just a lot of stuff that's new, that's concerning, it's odd, it's awkward, and I'm not particularly excited about it. Again, I'll give them the benefit of the doubt. A lot of doubt, but let's say episode 2 ends with Matt Murdock, basically, a cop he's trying to help a witness escape who witnessed a cop doing a crime, and so the cop shows up and they beat him up and they start fighting and stuff like that, right? And it ends with Matt Murdock hitting the guy in a way that, well, first off, the choreography is extremely awkward, but it feels like Matt Murdock hit the guy in a way that the dude's dead. So if they do the fake out again, the fake out of, it looks like Matt Murdock killed a guy, but he didn't. It's like, come on, dude, really? You did it at the start of episode 1, and you're doing it again at the end of episode 2? And I don't know what's worse, that or Matt Murdock actually killing a dude. A cop, nonetheless. Now, a dirty cop, but still. It's like, oh, listen, I'm curious. I'll give him that. I'm curious. It's to see what they do with it from that point on, but like I said, I didn't love it. And I'm more concerned. But I haven't seen anything that immediately made me throw the towel. Now, maybe it's my own love for the characters, but we'll see. Benefit of the doubt, I will continue. And again, I like this because now I have something to actually put on my regular podcasting schedule, unless something happens that I'm like, okay, I'm done. So if I keep watching it, I will be doing an episode review every week in case you want to join me for that. There's also a ton of stuff to talk about. So I'll try to do this more, even if it's in my car. Like Kathleen Kennedy is leaving Disney. Ubisoft might be dying. Like there's a bunch of really interesting stuff. Free agency is going wild in the NFL. So I will try to do more. I will. It's just difficult sometimes. And especially because I wanted Eric to join me. But I'll just start doing things by myself. It'll be easier. Like I can do it in my car. Like this. Hopefully you like that. But anyway, that's it for today. As always, comments, questions, or suggestions. I already said that. Like this video, share this video, subscribe to this channel. It really helps me out. I really appreciate it. And if you have thoughts on the show, I'd like to hear it. Comment on the video. What do you think of the show? Are you going to keep watching it? Did I miss anything? Is there something I'm not seeing? I don't know. Sometimes happens. But any topics that you think, well, I've missed a lot of topics, but anything in particular you think I missed that I should mention, let me know. As always, thanks for joining me, and I'll see you again next time.